Yeah, good morning. Last week, we discussed about the economic concept, the consumption aspect of it, the scarcity, opportunity cost, skill of preference, and what economy is all about. Now, this week now, we want to discuss about economic activity. What is economic activity? Economic activity is talking about the activity that happens in the economy that bring about the progress in the economy, that add value to the economy, that add value to the society. That's what the economic activity is all about. What are the activities that we put in place or that happens in the economy that contributes positively to the economic growth, that add value to the people's life in terms of what they are getting from it and what the society is getting from it in total. So economic activity, we have economic activity and we have non-economic activity. If we are talking about non-economic activity, these are the activity that doesn't add value to the economy. But individually, it can add value to their own pocket, but it doesn't add value to the society. Like if you are talking about betting, Bet Nigeria, for example, I'm just giving that as an instance. People bet for football, they bet for this. So individually, they are making money from it. But globally, based on the economic activity, it's not adding value to the economy because you are just moving money from one person to another. It's not as if you are producing something that will add value to the society. So those are non-economic activity. Talking about mosque, going to mosque or afar to pray for you, and you give them money, or go to church, pastor pray for you, pay offering, all those ones. It's not adding value to the economy, but it's adding value to individuals that are participating in it, but not to the society, because what you are doing is to remove money from one person to another. But economic activity is when you are producing something and you share it to another person. Someone else is consuming it. That's when they are talking about the economic activity, because it's adding value to them. It's adding value to the society. The society is producing something, and what they are producing, that thing is adding value to them. That's the economic activity. In a nutshell, what the economic activity is talking about is conversion of resources, the input you have, to something that is meaningful. Economic activity is the activity of making, providing, purchasing, or selling goods or services. So you are making something. That's economic activity. You are providing, it might be in form of services, it might be in form of goods, but you are adding value to. That's economic activity. There are 4 essential economic activities. Essential economic activities. First one is resources management. How do you manage the available resources that you have? You manage it very well because we have scarcity. There is scarcity, there is limited resources with unlimited wants. So how do you manage the resources you have effectively to satisfy that want that you need? The production of goods and services, the input you have, the natural resources you have, how do you make use of it to produce goods and services? That's another activity of economy. The distribution of goods and services. The distribution of goods, how do you share the goods you are producing? How do you share it in such a way that you get to the final consumer, to the market, those people that are in need, that is in need of that particular goods? And the consumption of goods and services. The goods and services, you have to talk about the consumption aspect of it. Are they actually consuming it, what they are producing? So those are the economic activities that we are talking about here. Now, the consumption aspect of it is talking about both what they are consuming currently and what they are keeping to consume in the long run, which is the capital formation. That means the motor vehicle, plant and machinery, all those, and what they are keeping in order to sell them or to consume them in the long run, your plant and machinery. Those ones are the economic activities. The four essential economic activities are the resources management, the production of goods and services, distribution of goods and services, the consumption of goods and services. Let's move on to the next concept. Like I said, the economic activities are being divided into four sections. So let's talk about the production aspect of it. The production, we're talking about the production of goods and services. Production, scarce resources are used in the production of goods and services with the objective of satisfying our needs and wants. Production is talking about the conversion of input to output. The resources you have, the inputs that you have to make it, you have to convert it to the output for goods and services. You convert it so that people can make use of it. The final consumer can use it in order for their own production or for consumption. That's the production of goods and services. You produce the goods. Then the production of goods and services that are processed, that is going to pass through in order for it to get to the final stage. That's what we talk about that's when we talk about the factor of production. So factors of production, that will be our next topic. But it's the factors of production that we are talking about here is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Those are the elements that you join together in the production of goods and services. The process of production of goods and services is carried out by combining the factors like land. You need to get land in order to produce goods. You have to stand on something in order to produce your goods. You get the labor, the laborers that will work for you. Even though if it is you alone that want to produce it, you still need to make use of your services. So that's the labor you're adding to it. So you need labor. The laborers, you need them. Then you need capital. You need something to start the business. How do you start the business? The capital you use to start the business. The money. Where are you going to get the money from? You have to source for the fund. You have to source for the fund. You source for the fund in order to run the business, to produce the goods and services. That's the capital aspect of it. The entrepreneurship, that means you yourself. The skill must be there. Some people, they have the money, but they don't have the skill to establish or to make use of the money effectively in order to produce something reasonable. So the skill must be there. And each of these factors of production that we are talking about here, they have their own reward. That means what you pay them back, what they get. We are talking about the land now. Land, reward for land is rent. You pay rent. If you are renting the land, the owner of the land will get rent stage fee from you. So that's the rent you are paying for it. That's the reward you are getting. The owner of the land is getting back from the land, from the usage of the land. If you are the owner of the land yourself, fine. Then you don't have to produce, you don't have to pay rent. But the money you are getting from indirectly, you are using it as your rentage for that. You are using it as a rentage for that. Then other factor, the next one is the labor. Labor is talking about the wages. The reward for labor is wages. So you get your wages from it as a reward. Then the capital is you get interest. It's like you are borrowing money from the bank, you pay interest on it. So then the target of any entrepreneur is to make profits. That's the production aspect of the economic activity. We explain it better. We are treating the factor of production in that. Then we move on to the consumption activity. Like I said, the consumption activity is divided into different levels. When you are talking about the consumption, what they are consuming, what we are consuming currently, and when you are talking about what the economy is going to consume in the long run, that's the futuristic consumption. So the consumption activity consists of the use of goods and services for the direct satisfaction of individual or collective human wants. The consumption activity consists of the use of goods and services for the direct satisfaction of individual or collective human wants. That's the use of goods and services. How do you make use of the goods and services? Consumption is not about eating alone. Consumption, if you are buying car, is a consumption because you are using it. If you are buying clothes, it's a consumption. If you are buying shoe, it's also a consumption. If you are buying food, it's a consumption. So consumption is talking about the use of goods and services for the direct satisfaction of individual or collective human wants. A part of current production is saved for future to add to existing capital stock like plants, machinery, building. The goods and services they are producing, your production now, part of it you have to save it as a nation. You have to save it as an individual. Any money you are getting, save part of it. For future consumption, the future consumption that we are talking about is like in form of the plant, machinery, building. How do you buy a car if you are not saving? How do you build a house if you are not saving? You have to save from what you are producing. That means the nation has to save from their capital, from their production. Part of the goods and services they are producing, they have to save it in order to buy something in the long run. So if you are talking about what to buy, that's the long run stuff is talking about the capital stock. What are those things they've saved? What are those products? Part of the production that they have, what are those ones they've saved? That's the capital stock. So like plants, machinery, building, it is every year in order to expand production potential in future. For them to expand their production, they have to save. So whatever is produced is disposed of either for consumption or for capital formation or both. Whatever you produce will be divided into two. It could be for consumption or for capital formation. How do I mean by capital formation? The capital formation that we are talking about here is talking about the saving, like I explained. That's for the long run, plants, machinery, all those. So let's move on to another interesting part of this class, which is the classification of economic activities. What are the classification? What are the classes of economic activity? Economic activities have been classified into three different sections, three different categories. That's three different sectors. We have the primary sector, we have the secondary sector, and we have the tertiary sector. So the primary sector basically is talking about the natural factors, natural resources to produce goods and services. That's the primary sector. That's the starting point, first point. Like talking about the mining, fishery, forestry, the poultry, agriculture, all those ones. They are the primary sector. They are the first sector That from the primary sector, you can now move on to the secondary sector. That's where you convert the primary resources, those goods and services you extracted from agri or from farming, from mining, you convert it. You use it to manufacture something. That's the secondary sector. So then you move on to the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector is talking about the services sectors like banking, insurance, trading, those ones, consulting, they are the service sector. They provide service to the economy in order to make the economic activity move faster. So that's why we have different levels of economy. If you are talking about the goods aspect, it's one side. If you are talking about the services aspect, it's another aspect of it. Telecommunication, it's under the tertiary sector. Where they produce service to the nation. Let's go back to the classification of economic activities. The primary sector that we are talking about is, simply speaking, primary sector refers to that sector of the economy which uses natural resources to produce goods. The natural resources to produce goods, that's the key thing in primary sector. Natural resources, like talking about the land that we have, you now use it to produce goods. You plant on it. By planting on it, something will come out. You harvest it. Whatever thing planted on it, you harvest it. That's, you've produced goods there. You plant corn, you harvest the corn after 3 months or 10 weeks, depending on the kind of corn you are planting. You plant cassava, you harvest it after 6 months. That's the primary sector. You are into poultry, fishery. You bought finger leaves, you invested on it. After 6 months, 8 months, you have your fish available. So at that stage, you can consume it or you sell it. That's the primary sector. Natural factors play a crucial role in the production process. Agriculture, allied activities like mining, fishery, forestry, dairy, poultry, and are included in this sector. So these are the sectors that we talk about that deals directly with the primary sector. So let's move on to secondary sector. So the secondary sector is also called as manufacturing sector or industrial sector. The primary sector cannot satisfy all human requirements. We need certain industrial sector to make our life comfortable. So the secondary sector, primary sector alone cannot satisfy the economy, because you produce cassava, you produce plants, you produce your mining, you did your fishery, you did all those stuff, forestry, you did all those stuff. You need to convert it, you need to put them into manufacturing. You have to manufacture, use it to manufacture goods and services. How do I mean? To convert those inputs or output you got from primary sector, you convert it to the usage, or you manufacture it, use it to manufacture something else. Talking about the cassava now, I use it to manufacture gari. You can use it to produce something else, fufu, all those stuff. So that's the secondary sector. The mining, you convert it. Your crude oil now, you have to convert. After extracting the crude oil, you convert it to petrol, to diesel, to gas, a lot of things. So that's the secondary level. That's the secondary sector. You move on from primary sector to secondary sector. Primary sector is the starting point. That's the beginning, where you extract the raw materials. So secondary sector is when you produce, you convert the raw material into output for consumption. So that's why they call it the manufacturing sector or industrial sector. Why the primary sector is talking about the agri sector, that's the mining sector, the beginning of it. So you have to convert it, that's the industrial sector. So we need certain industrial goods to make our lives comfortable. So if you are consuming based on the primary sector alone, you might not enjoy your life, might not feel the impact of life in your body. That's why the primary sector always occur in underdeveloped countries. Those countries that are yet to develop, those countries that are trying to come up. So primary sector, yeah, there are major activities there. Just a few of secondary sector there, just few. Talking about Nigeria now. Yeah, primary activities just based on the primary sector. Extraction of input. Excuse me. So like agriculture sector, all those ones, they are the primary sector. So the secondary sector, is the sector that transforms one physical good into another. So that means they transform one physical goods into the another. That's the secondary sector. So that's the manufacturing, electricity, gas, water supply, etc. Those ones are called the secondary sector. So let's move on to the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector, any question before I proceed? Do you have any question for me? Okay, in the absence of no question, I would like to proceed with my explanation.
Sorry, if I may ask, you while explaining economic activity, you said some activities are not economic activities like Bet Niger and stuff that they don't contribute to the economy. I because it's a money that move from one individual to another individual. But indirectly, don't you think that also contributes to the economy? Because when you get the money, you will definitely use it to buy something, to eat, to do something for your family, or even establish a business. We've had people that have used that money to build houses before and even set up a business. But maybe I'm the one not getting it very well.
Okay, fine. The economic activity that we are talking about, that we have interest in here, is the activity that involve you producing something, not the activity that involve, okay, if you look at the Bet Nigeria aspect of it now, the betting aspect of it, it's just the movement of money from A to B. It's not coming up as a result of production. The only thing that add value to the economy is the production of something, not movement of money from Mr. A to B. Mr. A, yes, you said this person received the money and use it to build out this and that. It's adding value to individual. It's adding value to individual. But as a nation, it's not adding value. But to individual, it's adding value. Because if you participate in it and you eventually win the betting, If you are the winner and you won the program, the betting, they will give you the money. But it's someone that is giving you the money. So it's still the same economy agent. People that are in the economy, that is transfer money from one another. But if you are talking about the production of goods and services now, as a farmer, the person will go to the farm, plant crop or something, cassava, put one stick on the soil, then it's now going to produce 20 without affecting the other party. Naturally, something is coming out, and that is going to add value to the economy. Unlike the betting aspect of it, that is the two of us that is betting. So if the economy is running with 1,000 naira before, when we are betting for it, so the 1,000 naira will still be the same 1,000 naira, just that the 1,000 naira will move from Mr. A to Mr. B. But in the aspect of planting, if you plant cassava, 1,000, let me use beans, 1,000 pieces of beans or cup of beans can produce 10,000 bags of beans. So that's economic activity. That one has brought about the progress to the economy. Economic value has added value to the economy. But if you look at the betting aspect, the 1,000 is still the same 1,000, just I move from Mr. A to Mr. B. Doesn't add value, contribute to the economic growth, doesn't contribute to the national income, because the national income is still the same thing that we have. That is what economic activities are about. I don't know if you understand my concept, what I explain now.
Yes, I actually do. I do clear now. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's the aspect of the economic activity. And with that explanation, I think it's very clear now. So the last aspect of it is the tertiary sector. Like I said, tertiary sector is talking about the services. That's the services sector. When you are carrying out the services like health, education, banking, insurance, trade, and transport. Those are the services sector. They are the service that you render to the economy. That's what the tertiary sector is about. Let me go back to it. Tertiary sector, the service sector of the economy, is called the tertiary sector. Services of various kinds like education, health, banking, insurance, trade, and transport are included in this sector. In advanced countries, the contribution of tertiary sector to national income is the highest. So, but in advanced countries, their major source of income is the services. But in underdeveloped countries, their major sector is the primary sector. While in the developed country, their major sector is the manufacturing sector. So that's what we want to discuss about today. We've covered up the chapter 1 of this class, of this subject. So our next class is going to be on the factor of production, which is the chapter 2 aspect of it. And I believe we within that short time that we have, we can use it to cover up that aspect very well. Thank you
Sir,
for your
if
time.
So if you don't mind, I don't know if you can briefly summarize the chapter one from your first class, second class, and your third class in 2 minutes or 5 minutes.
Okay. Uh, chapter one is talking about the economic activities, economics, what economics is all about. That's the introduction aspect of it. Like we said, the economy is a social science that studies human behavior with relationship between end and scarcity, which have alternative use. Under the definition, we talk about the social science concerned with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. The production and consumption and distribution of goods and services is the economic activity of it. Is the economic activity of the economy. So we also talk about the choice, talk about the opportunity, the choice when you are selecting the best out of the goods that are available. Then we also talk about the opportunity cost. That's the alternative for gone. When you are trading off one particular activity or one particular product for another due to the fact that the resources we have is limited and we have unlimited one. And in that situation, when you have unlimited one, you have to do a scale of preference. Scale of preference is just the arrangement of goods based on how important they are. You prioritize it. So once you prioritize it, you select the best. That is that what you needed, what you need now, you select it, then you can buy the best and get a maximum satisfaction from your resources. Scarcity, when we are talking about the resources you have is limited. You have a limited resources, there's not enough resources, that's when goods are going to be scarce. So that's the aspect of it. Then today we discuss about the economic activity. That means those activities that add value to the economy, and the production, consumption, and the capital sector. Then management of resources. How do you manage the available resources? Are you managing it very well? So that's the resources aspect of it. Then we talk about the classification of the economic activity. Basically, the economic activities have been classified into the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. The primary sector is talking about the extraction of inputs. That means the agricultural aspect of it, the mining, the fishery, all those ones, they are under the primary sector. Then the secondary sector, we are talking about the conversion of those inputs we extracted from the primary sector to output. I mean, to use it to produce something. That's the production. You produce goods. That's the secondary aspect of it. That's the manufacturing sector. Then they now talk about the tertiary sector. That's the services sector of the economy. That's the banking, the insurance, the health sector, education. Those are the services, and which is the major sector in developed economy. So generally, that's just what we discussed about. Any questions so far? Then we also talk about the production possibility core. Production possibility because that means the two goods that you can produce with the available resources. What are the two goods you can produce with the available resources and you maximize the best output from it? So that was what we discussed about last week and this week. I think some of this question there that send email. Let me check. It's Joshua. I think you're trying to say something. Any question, Mr. Joshua?
I don't have a question, sir.
Okay, that's fine. The absence of no question, I think we have to end the class here now. Thank you very much. I'll be expecting you next week.